Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Spirit and Soul podcast. Today, we are talking about living as the observer. And what that means is really for you to begin kind of detaching from the drama that goes on around you, the things that go on around you that maybe don't feel so good to you, or maybe are also distracting, because a lot of times drama is a distraction. And listen, I like some tea, okay? I am a Gemini, guys, okay? Like I love me some tea. But how you attach to drama and the things that go on around you and the things that go on and happen, let's say, to you, right? And putting that in air quotes for those not watching, things that are going on within your field, within your 3D reality. And the thing is, with all of this drama and all of these things that go on, is that this can be a massive distraction for us to almost like take us away from what we're meant to do. And you may actually be using it as the distraction, as the thing, the excuse in order for you to not live out the things that you want to do or are meant to do in your life. So what we want to start to do is kind of just be the witness to a lot of these things, like observe what's going on around you, and also master the emotional awareness that comes with being the observer. So I think that this is important because we all go through some shit, we are all constantly, I feel like, going through something where something, even if it's not huge, maybe something's just pissing you off or something's really bothering you. We all have this little areas of contention within our life that we don't like, or that maybe there's a person that kind of triggers us. And a lot of times these triggers are really asking you to go within and begin to understand yourself a little bit more. But before you can even do that, you live in this 3D reality. You are human and you are divine, right? You are a human and a soul. And the part of you that is human, that the ego is really shining through, this is the part of you that really reacts to some things unless you start to get it under control. And once you start to get this under control, you can kind of witness what's going on around you and then decide how you want to respond to it. So rather than just flying off, the cuff and going off of your emotions, when you start to become the observer of what's going on, you start to live from a deeper place. Now, I'm also going to say, this is a very peaceful place to be. I'm also going to say that you're not going to be there 100% of the time. And I don't expect you to. I'm not there 100% of the time. That's for sure. There are times where I do react, but I will say that for a majority of the time, I am not the reactive person that I once was. I definitely, definitely was way more reactive when I was younger, when I was not doing this work, than I am today. There can be things going on around me and I can recognize them and see them and witness them without assigning a meaning to it, like what this means about this or that, or get caught up in the full on drama of it. So where I really want to go today is start to see what is the difference between the self that experiences things and then the self that witnesses the things, because you have to be both. Okay. And I think that in the spiritual world, there is this misconception. Actually, I just saw a meme about it yesterday that I think I actually reposted it. I'm pretty sure that I did. And it was deciding what self, what version of me this one is going to get, the previous, the old version of me, the unhealed version, or the healed version, or something like that. But you get to decide which version is showing up. Sometimes, I always say, sometimes I want to be a petty bitch. That's okay. That is the human part of me. And then, as long as I think that I'm leaning in most of the time to the other part of me, to the part that has done the work and doesn't want to get involved, or sees it, recognizes it, works it through, and then just doesn't react to it, like, because that is the response. You may not ever have the response to it, and that's okay. But that version of me shows up more. But sometimes the other version shows up, and I am a human, and that is okay. I am okay with that. That would be like monk status, okay? Or also sometimes I think that there is a beauty in reaction, because when you're reacting, you are, especially if you're in a like almost like a controlled reaction, okay? When you are reacting, you're allowing yourself to feel, and you are a human, you're supposed to feel. Now, yes, in a response, you can allow yourself to feel as well. But I think sometimes when we don't respond at all, or we just let everything roll off our back, we're kind of just allowing all of the things that happen in our lives to continue to happen. We're saying, like, you're a doormat. And I'm not okay with that either. Okay. But what I want you to do is be the one that's deciding which one you choose. So rather than letting every single thing roll off your back, I don't think that that's healthy either. I think that there has to be like this beautiful in between. So, like, really understanding that, like, you are not the storm. Okay. Like the energy that comes through, you're not the storm. You're this vast open experience, right? You're the sky. You're the sky, and everything is moving around you and moving through you. But when we react, we feel like we are the storm because the emotions become stormy. So if you can kind of step back and say, okay, I am the sky, and I can choose to let myself become all encompassed by this storm. Or I can say, I'm going to like leave slivers here and there, or I'm just like even not going to experience the storm. Like I'm totally stepping back from it. And there is a power in that. That, my friend, is self awareness. That, my friend, is being the observer. It is saying, I'm going to step back and then decide what I am going to do. That is also self control, right? It's understanding that everything that happens, it's not like the movies, right? Where something happens to you and then you feel like you have to react in a certain way because that's what other people do, because that's what you've seen in movies, because other people around you are reacting that way. So you want to react. But that is a choice to do those things. I want you to understand that you can actually, that there's actual deep power in taking the step back and saying, okay, what do I want to do with this here? How do I want to experience this thing that I'm going through? And when you can start to do that, that's when you're in the driver's seat. Truly, truly, truly. Because the thing is, and I'm going to be realistic with you, it is hard to be in this observer mode. Like, I'm telling you this, and with full awareness that there are going to be times where this really, really challenges you. But the more that you can master it, the better you're going to feel. Because think about the last time. I want you to take a minute right now. And this could have been this morning for you. This could have been last night. I want you to think about the last time where you let your emotions just really get in the way. They led the way, and maybe you exploded. Maybe you said some things that you shouldn't have said, or just reacted in a way that maybe wasn't the healthiest or the best. And then it led to more, right? It led to maybe a bigger fight, or it led to hanging up the phone with no resolution to it, right? Like, I want you to kind of tune into that energy. How did you feel after? And this is the part for me that makes all the difference, because maybe in the moment you exploding, you have like defending yourself, but maybe in a way that doesn't feel good to you. Like maybe in the moment it did feel good. Maybe in the moment you let out some other things. And what I'm going to say to you is check yourself. Check yourself right here and now, because what you were exploding about, what you were reacting to, was it fully about the experience that you were having? Or was it other things that have built up that you did not handle, and then this just kind of put you over the edge? And how do you feel about it now? And this right here, how you feel about it now, is the marker to realize whether you were reacted or whether you responded appropriately. So I want you to kind of sit with that for a minute. Because the thing is this: If you reacted, if you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, I don't feel good about what I did or said, you let your emotions completely lead the way. It might not have even been attached to what the situation was about. And yet you let it take you over the edge. Maybe you said things that you shouldn't have said, and now you feel really bad about it. Maybe you can't take back some of the things you said. Maybe it ruined something. And now you're sitting here like, oh, if only I would have just had control of myself. If only I would have just spoken instead of yelled, right? That right there is the marker to reaction versus having a conflict with somebody and then afterwards saying, yeah, you know what? I did yell and I'm okay with that. Like, I feel good about it. I didn't say anything that was nasty. I didn't, say anything that was out of character, but I did express myself. And maybe I did express myself yelling. Maybe I needed to be heard in that way, or whatever it is, like whatever the situation was, like maybe you were yelling and like you're like because the person was yelling over you, or that was the only way to kind of like get someone's attention. Like I know sometimes with my kids, even like, of course kids throw you over the edge, my God. But I know sometimes with my kids, like when they're like in this like craze, like there's like this almost like hypnotic state that they're in, that they're just all they see is what they see, and they almost need to be snapped out of it. So sometimes I will be like yell and like get their attention and then bring my voice down and then talk to them like that just to kind of snap them out of it. So maybe you had to do that, and that's okay. That's all right. If you feel good about the conversation, if you feel good about every action, every word that came out of your mouth, then you were the observer. You sat back and you responded with grace. You responded from the heart, probably. And that's going to feel very different for you. In that moment, you probably took a step back, maybe even tried to understand the other person rather than just building up this wall and exploding. And where this comes from is the ego's attachment to identity. So when we have someone that is threatening either our identity, threatening our view, threatening our need to be right, our need to be validated, and the biggest one, our need to be in control. Like when someone does something that you think they should have done differently, or I would have done it this way, I wouldn't have done it that way. How many times do you hear that? I had a friend that would say that all the time. Well, if it were me, I would have done XYZ, but it wasn't you, babe. But it wasn't you. And that person doesn't have all of your experiences. They're not in your mind. And yeah, maybe your way would have been better, but maybe they couldn't think of that way. Right? So it's like we have to understand that we are all on our own journeys with our own experiences, our own minds, our own smarts, our own intelligence, our own way of handling things, our own nervous systems. And other people in our lives are not going to handle situations the way that you do. And that is okay. But when we have our control, our like threatened, when we're in our ego feels threatened and our identity feels threatened, or like we just want to be like, well, I know better. That's when the ego is going to kind of kick forward, and it's going to be like, whoa, we are threatened and we don't like this. And then the nervous system default response is going to be fight, flight. There are freeze and fawn, which fawn would be the people pleasing. That may come out as well, right? But really, usually we go into this fight mode, right? And that's when you explode in ways that maybe you don't want to. And I want you to understand that when you understand yourself on a level that you get your emotions, you understand what makes you feel triggered. You understand why those triggers do trigger you. Just because you know what a trigger is doesn't mean it doesn't trigger you anymore. You can see the trigger and be like, I know that thing triggers me. I don't like it. And I know I have some healing work to do around it, but you can also then be the one that steps back. Remember, being like the sky in the storm rather than being the storm. You can step back and say, okay, I see I am being triggered. I know this type of behavior triggers me, or this thing triggers me. So how am I going to respond? Because I'm not going to react to it. Okay. Our triggers are always going to be our biggest teachers. And that is beautiful. Like, what a gift to be able to have things within us, or have these contracts with people that will trigger the hell out of you so that you can grow. I'm not saying it feels good. It doesn't feel good. But if you can look at every trigger as a chance to grow, then you are seeing life from a different perspective. You're seeing life for its growth potential rather than its drama. Okay? That is a huge difference right there. Huge difference of seeing life as a growth potential, seeing every single thing that happens as a possibility for transformation, as a way for you to get to know yourself just a little bit more deeply. And as you start to do this work, you're going to start to catch yourself. You're going to start to see the things unfold before you. And you're not even going to have to be aware of it. It's just going to be like, you're just going to be like, okay, I see. Okay, we're going to step back from this, and you're going to start to maybe be in the situation, but also have full control over your emotions. That is a powerful place to be. So, so, so powerful. And the way that we get there is to really do that healing work and start to understand that when you are the observer, you begin to interrupt the automatic patterns that you had from the past. Right now we shift. And when we shift patterns, when we see those those subconscious programs that we used to have, we see them begin to unwind. We can then be in the powerhouse energy. We can step back from those old patterns, open up a new timeline. And now what we're doing is reclaiming choice, that we have a choice in the matter. I don't have to fly off the handle. I don't have to get really sad. Actually, what I can step back and realize is, in my mind, I can say, F you. I don't even have to say it out loud. You don't get to make me feel that way. And that can be a physical response, or it could just be one that's inside of you that's saying, yeah, don't accept that. Nope, not part of my storyline anymore. And as you start to do that, my friend, you are collapsing timelines, because you're getting rid of that old patterning that used to be there. And now you are creating someone new for yourself, within yourself. So it's absolutely amazing. And when you do that, what happens is, in your brain has a certain neuroplasticity to it. And you may have heard this, where your brain will actually form certain, let's say, like highways, right? And every single time something happens, you always drive on the same highway, okay? But as you start to shift how you show up in the world, or how you think about things in your world, or your actions, you create new highways. Or let's say you create spin-offs of the highway, and you create new roads, and maybe like you create this better way that feels really good in the brain. And as you start to create something new, a new highway opens up for you. And now the other highway begins to close down, because that's not part of who you are anymore. This is what's called neuroplasticity. Okay. That means that the brain, and like the synapses and the nerves within the brain, that they are always growing, that they are not stuck. We are not stuck in who we are. So I hate when people say, oh, that's just who I am. No, it's not. It's who you're choosing to be. That doesn't mean that this is who you will always be. So we have to really begin to be aware of that your brain is always growing. It actually wants to continue to grow. It wants you to do the work. So you have to allow yourself to do that. And that comes from healing and choice. It's seeing that you have a choice, and it's allowing yourself to see the triggers as healing moments, as growth moments. So when you can step back and be the observer, you can begin to see this. One of the most powerful times in my life was a situation that I had with a friend that had done something, not so nice to me. And I called her out on it. Like I had to do that. And I remember standing there and calling her through this betrayal. I remember calling her and I was so calm. And it was like almost like, I don't want to say eerily calm, but I chose in that moment to understand. And I even said the words to her, like, I see how this is a growth moment for me. And like, I know that I have something to learn here from this and something to obviously heal. And I am okay with that. But this behavior, like, I don't accept. These things I don't accept. And that version of me took time to get to. I don't want to say it took a long time to get to, but it took work, because the version of me from a few years before that would have flipped out, lost my mind, and maybe even taken to Instagram over it and spread the news like all over Instagram. And like, like that's when we get this cancel culture bullshit. And it's just like, no, what good is that doing for anybody? That doesn't do good for me. It doesn't change the situation. That doesn't take away the hurt. That just is my ego playing the driver in this driver's seat, that's sitting in the driver's seat. And it's just like, F you, take this person down, that person down. And it's ridiculous, actually. So in that moment, I was truly able to see that. And even though I was hurting, and even though I was sad and mad and kind of going through grieving and feeling all of these different emotions, my outer self was calm. And when you have a calm outer self, when you're even like, I was even calm inside, even though I had these emotions within me. I remember being relatively calm. Of course, like, I had inflection in my voice and like all of the things. And I was feeling the emotions and expressing the emotions. I was not flipping out. I wasn't nothing. And that changed me. Like I recognized it in that moment. I recognized how I was showing up as a different version of me and how I felt good about the conversation, even though it was hurting me, right? Like I still felt good about how I responded to that conversation. From there, you see things different. And the way that you see things different is this. I truly was then able to see my former friend for what she was going through. Not for what she did, but for the things that came before it and what was lying underneath it. And then you tap into compassion. Compassion doesn't mean you forgive. It doesn't mean that it's okay to hurt somebody. But what it means is it's like a remembering of that we are all one, and that everybody has their own story and is going through their things. And somebody else's story and the things that they do don't have to become your story. But the moment that you choose to react, their story became a part of your story. And that's why I would not let her story become a part of my story anymore. Like I would not do that, because as much as I could see the hurt and all the things and the things that she was going through, I was not accepting that in my life because I had things to do. You know what I mean? Like I had a life to live. I had things to experience, and I wasn't allowing this thing to be the part that was like trying to take me down. No way. Not at all. I deserve better than that. And I knew that at that time. I'm like, I deserve better than this treatment, and I deserve better than allowing this to take me down. Now, that didn't mean that I didn't have to heal from it. That didn't mean any of those things, because I had a long process ahead of me of healing through a betrayal, a friendship loss, and like all of the things. Like I had to work through that. But I was able to do it from a different place than I would have if I would have hung on to the deepest anger, because I think that reacting actually makes anger worse, because you're allowed to feel all of your emotions, and you should. If you're mad, be mad. If you're sad, be sad. But how long do you sit in it? How long are you sitting in that emotion? That is the question, right? And anger, especially when we react, I think that a reaction, it's almost like this volcano of emotion that also allows it, like makes you kind of sit in it for a little bit longer, because then you're trying to justify your actions or your words or whatever it is you did through the anger. Well, it's just because I'm so mad. It's just because I'm so mad. I'm mad. I'm mad. I'm mad. But how long are you going to stay mad, babe? How long are you going to stay mad in that? Or can you just move on, because like you're not meant to sit in this. So like keep going, right? So this for me has been profound in my journey, because I have been able to see people for where they're at on their own journey, maybe even what they're going through. And again, never making it like an excuse for that. It's not an excuse for anybody to do any harm or anything like that. But for your own purposes, you can almost like rationalize and say, okay, I see that I'm creating a boundary, not acceptable, but I don't have to make it about me. It wasn't about me. It was always about the other person, or it was always about this thing, whatever. Okay. So what you can do when you feel like you're in a situation like this, where you have to kind of stop and check yourself here, I want you to immediately, because you might feel the ego is always going to be the one that's like, let's go. What'd you say? Like the ego is always going to jump in. The ego's got your back, not in a good way. Okay. So the ego, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it come online. And I want you to interrupt it. Whoa, cool it, hold it back. Okay. And then I want you to breathe. Take a nice, big, deep breath in and hold that and let it out. Okay. Once you start to do that, one breath will stop. One breath will interrupt that reaction. So you're going to breathe. And then I want you to say, I'm noticing that I'm feeling, or I notice that I feel this way. Not I am mad, I am sad, I am hurt. No, I want you to say, I'm noticing that I'm feeling, right? Because once you say I'm noticing, you're stepping back. You're becoming that observer. So when you step back, become that observer, you're taking that breath, you're detaching from the moment. And then you're saying, okay, what is going on around here? How do I want to respond? Right here, you've shifted the narrative. Right here, you actually, even if you're feeling out of control, you have just taken back the control. You took control of the situation. Then you can decide how to move forward. From here, you may decide to be a petty bitch. That's your decision. Also, from here, you may choose to find compassion, to let it go, to say what you need to say, but say it in a way that gets your point across, that maybe actually has you feeling heard, rather than flipping out, losing your mind. Because as soon as you flip out, the person is building a wall. They've already built a wall. They can no longer hear you. Anything that you say is not going to get through. So the moment that you can let go and say, okay, I'm going to approach this in a different way, now you've taken back the control of the situation. So, and that's power. So when you truly master observation, relationships begin to shift. Your relationships are going to feel different. They're going to feel deeper. And also you're going to understand the person so much more. You're responding with intention instead of emotion. Okay. And I'm not saying don't feel the emotions, but when we react from emotions, it usually doesn't go well. Okay. I'm just gonna leave it there. You know what I mean. Okay. Then what you can start to do is look at the situation, and maybe it's not in the moment, maybe it's stepping back, but you can actually start to look at the moment that you're going through and maybe manifest something different for it, a different feeling. Maybe you can have a conversation with the person's higher self if you feel like you're not being heard, which this is an Erica trick that she taught me a long time ago, and I absolutely love it. But you can actually find different ways to handle the situation that maybe make you feel so much better. And because you're becoming a bit more unattached to the situation, you become the creator, or one of the creators of how do I want this to look. And maybe it is that you are walking away, or maybe it is that you're forgiving or letting it slide or whatever. Like, these are all your decisions, and nobody can say if they're right or wrong because it's your life. But what I want you to do is to begin to understand the decisions that you're making without having your emotions make them for you. Does that make sense? I know it makes sense. So, being the observer, truly, I want you to understand, it doesn't make you detached from life. Okay. What it's doing is it's allowing you to experience life more fully. It's giving you the option to choose, it's giving you your free will back. When emotions run the show, you really don't have free will attached to them, because your emotions are always, you're going to be blinded always by your emotions. And emotions are beautiful. We need to feel our emotions. Emotions are energy in motion, right? So it's truly things that are going on within our energetic field, but they can overtake logic. And that's where you have to kind of take that step back and say, what do I choose here? Rather than having the emotions choose it, what do I choose? Okay. When you can start to do this, you clear out the noise, and then your free will comes online, and you get to choose the version of you that shows up to this situation. And I love that for you. All right. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Spirit and Soul Podcast. If you had something that just resonated with you, I would love to hear from you. I love when you guys come into the shop or DM me and tell me all about how you listened to the podcast and you heard this or this changed your life. And I want to hear more from you. So please make sure that you are following us at Spirit and Soul Studio. You can also make sure that you are following me at I'm Tiffany Cohen on Instagram. And I just, again, love to hear from you. I appreciate you, and I will see you on the next episode.